What is up, fellow bench warmers? Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bench Warmers. I'm your host JJT with Komish Eric. Komish,
Yes.
the
Hi,
other
guys.
ball has dropped.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, the first ball didn't drop because Kevin Durant stayed with Brooklyn. This one, the Donovan Mitchell trade that everyone's been waiting for, happened this morning, early morning. Not really the trade you'd expect, right?
Yeah. Well, the RJ Barrett extension that we talked about last time we recorded had a big impact because, as we said, New York is out of the running because of that for probably until December or until February. So that gave Cleveland the chance to sneak in, steal Spider away from New York.
This is going to be very interesting because as we will see the depth charts of both Utah and Cleveland, but for Cleveland in particular, not looking good for some of the players who initially was supposed to have a really good projected draft position this season. So, but surprising. Not really. I mean, I was actually surprised Cleveland swooped in, but they gave up 3 draft picks, right? I think.
Yeah. Let's run down the trade. It's basically Donovan for 3 unprotected draft picks, 2 pick swaps, and then the players involved are Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, and Ojai Agbaji, the first round pick of Cleveland this year. So that's three players, 5 picks, basically 5 picks going to Utah for Donovan Mitchell. Yeah.
And lots of picks once again, and not surprising because this is what Brian Windhorst predicted. But now let's look at the impact of this trade for their respective teams. So let's, I guess, first talk about Cleveland.
Yeah. Depth chart.
Yeah, Cleveland's depth chart. If you look at this one, so the person I'm really talking about is gonna get a hit here is Darius Garland. So I would think Darius Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen are locked as the starters for Cleveland. We still don't know who starts in the small forward position. Would it be Levert? Most likely it's gonna be Levert, right?
Nah, I don't think it's
Levert.
I think it's Okoro.
Yeah,
I think it's Okoro. Yeah. Given that you have Garland, Mitchell, who are gonna dominate the ball, and then Mobley, and then Allen, I don't see Levert's role there at the starting 5. So it should be Okoro.
Yeah. So now let's talk about Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Fantasy wise, I guess this is the biggest question. I don't think Mobley gets much of a hit. In fact, he might get a little boost with Markkanen not there, but not a big major boost, I guess, for him. Jarrett Allen probably be the same Jarrett Allen we've seen. Maybe not as good as last season, but close to that. But Garland and Mitchell, how do you see this shaping out?
No way to sugarcoat it. It's not good. It's not good for them. I mean, they took a hit. Garland before today and Mitchell were probably neck and neck around mid to late 20s. Some people are actually picking Garland late second round because they've been predicting, better another step up from his All-Star season. But this one will drop them probably around 1 round from their previous draft position, in my opinion. They're both ball handlers, they need the ball to be effective, and Garland's 9 assists a game or whatever, 8.9 to 8 to 9 assists a game, I don't think that will stay this year. So yeah, it's a big hit for both of them, in my opinion.
But Mitchell, though, do you think he might drop around, that might go to late 20s, I guess, to early 30s instead of maybe a mid 20s type of draft position? It's so hard. These two are really great fantasy options, very durable fantasy options, but now it's gonna be tough for both of them to. They're still great players to own. I'm not saying that, I guess these are the next tier, between, if you compare them to the Trae Young and the DeJounte Murray, because they're at the top tier types of guards, right? Sharing the role.
The difference with Trey DeJounte situation is Trey and DeJounte are, well, they ended in the early rounds. They were really early round prospects. So the hit there's a hit also there, but like DeJounte's value is really steals, and he can rebound. And I think in a way they can complement each other. The Mitchell Garland, they're both 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", they're small. And their games, Garland can shoot better. Mitchell is more athletic, but they're kind of similar. Fantasy wise, let's talk fantasy. 3 points, assists, scoring. That's where their value comes. So I would assume the usage will be split between the two. So yeah, Mitchell, one of the favorite mid-20s target before, but right now I'm happy to let him slide to the 30s because of this deal. This trade.
It's also interesting as players slide down the initial projected draft positions, but no one's really moving up, right? That's what's interesting this season. A lot of players drop, like DeJounte, right? Like Trey, but really there's no clear winner who moved up other than maybe LaMelo or Tyrese, right? And this is the same case. If you look at Garland and Donovan Mitchell, I wouldn't be surprised if teams or if managers pick them early as well, just because there aren't any better options, I guess, that are available.
Well, there will be people that will rise because of this. But it's a matter of us trying, like Kyrie, for instance. I think Kyrie becomes more appealing. You can talk yourself into maybe this is a contract year of Kyrie. Maybe he needs to behave. Maybe he wants to get traded to, I don't know, or maybe he wants to make this work because he found out that, well, there's no market for him anymore. So maybe it woke him up. Kyrie is another a player. Maybe Paul George, maybe Bradley Beal. Players that are still risky, but because of everything that happened here, you have to make a choice, I guess. Would you go for a riskier player or players who lost value because of trades? So that's the decision you'll have to make come draft time.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the other players. Any player here who you think, would, Mobley, like we said, Mobley, do you agree that Mobley and Jarrett and probably have the same role, same production, not too far off from what they did last year?
Yeah, but they will take a hit with Mitchell coming in. I understand Markkanen leaves, but anytime you put in a top 25 player into your lineup, there's no way that offensively Mobley or Allen will not get hit. I agree with you. The rebounds, the blocks, the steals defensively, they should still be the same from last year. But of course, there's the offensive side to it because people are drafting Mobley in the top 30. And I feel like that's
too high.
That's too high, especially with Donovan there. That's too high. And Jarrett Allen, if he's going like 50, 55, that's too high also for me. So there is also a hit. Maybe not as significant as Garland and Mitchell, but there will be a hit for Mobley also and Allen. But the rebounds and blocks should be the same from last year.
Yeah. Any player here that, we should be cautious about?
LeVert. For me, Caris LeVert. I'm not drafting Caris LeVert in any form. Even in 16 team leagues, because he didn't play well when he was traded. Now he becomes a sixth man basically, and that's even without Ricky Rubio yet. So unless he gets traded, and LeVert's fantasy game is overrated, to be honest. He's more of a name value, I think, right now. So LeVert is somebody I'm not touching this year.
And as we end this Cleveland depth chart, any player you think, well, I'm staying away from LeVert as well, so in case you want to know, but any player who you think could surprise us? Kevin Love.
Hard to find.
The newly
Well,
married Kevin Love.
yeah, Kevin Love can. I think Kevin Love
Kevin Love
can stay.
surprised last year, in fairness to
Yes,
him, right?
yes. He
I mean,
surprised. He surprised last year, so I think he can continue that performance last year. But none really for me that I see that I like. I don't want to say Okoro because I don't really feel like he's he's Mr. Zero. He doesn't do anything with the minutes given to him. So I don't think that even if he starts, he will start. He's probably gonna defend and do everything invisibly, be the invisible guy in the starting five. But if there's anybody here, if you're in a 30-team league, maybe look Travers. That's the rookie. That's an Australian. But really, no exciting, sleeper hype guy here
yeah.
in Cleveland.
Fantasy wise, it's pretty much just four deep here. Four
Yeah,
players deep with maybe
Love.
Kevin Love taking it. You might
I
want to take a
forgot your
chance.
guy, Kevin
Kevin
Love.
Love, right? I mean, last year he surprised us, so maybe this year
Yeah,
it will be
yeah.
another good year. I think the role fits him well. He's not expected to lead the team with Donovan here. That might open up a bit more for him on the outside. So I think Kevin
I
Love
think
not really could surprise, but I think he can at least give you good, decent fantasy production.
I think Dean Wade is somebody you could might be because they lost Lauri Markkanen. So Dean Wade last year was okay for certain games. If he gets a lot of the small forward position, let's say Cleveland wants to do the big lineup they did last time, Dean Wade could be a deep league option. A big man who could score 3 pointers, could shoot threes. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the other side of the deal. Uh, Utah, well, it's
Mm,
everyone's expecting Utah to make more moves, which I
yes.
wouldn't be surprised if they do. Because Mike Conley's there, Jordan Clarkson's there, pretty much. I mean, Conley is not really the youngest players. I mean, I would understand if Clarkson stays. But looking at the depth chart here,
My
um,
God.
really interesting. I mean, Sexton. Let's talk about Sexton first. He's the biggest name, or I guess Sexton and Markkanen are the biggest name that were shipped here. Let's talk about Sexton. Last year, he got injured ACL, torn ACL. How do you see him this year?
Before this trade, I didn't particularly like him, but after this trade, I see the value if he's healthy. Assuming he's healthy, and I think I'm gonna do this analyzing with the assumption that Conley, that Clarkson and Bojan are out of the rotation. Okay, that's a fair assumption. I think Colin Sexton will be their main player, basically, to handle the ball, to score, to pass, to do everything. Even if they're tanking, they still need someone to do that, right? So, and Colin Sexton is the perfect player for a tanking team because he can do that, but do that inefficiently and do that in a losing, in a way that will not affect your winning chances. So, Sexton 2 years ago, 24 points, 4 assists, I think a steal, almost 2 3 pointers, 47% field
He
goal.
was good. I mean,
Not bad. Yeah.
yeah, not bad. If you need a scoring guard, he's
Yeah.
your guy. He's not a bad field goal percentage type of guy. He's not really, he's gonna give you decent field goal. Not for a guard who's a scorer, it's not too bad. For
He
Sexton.
was around 100 at that time, at that year. I remember that because we talked about it that time that he was so hot, and then he's still 90 something to 100 because he doesn't steal as much, and then he has a lot. He had a lot of turnovers, and I think if he reprises that role here in Utah, I think that's where he will land, around 90 something to 100 range,
Yeah.
ranks wise. So if you can pick him lower than that, that's good. That's okay value. That's okay value.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Markkanen was decent last year, although he
Yes.
was in a bit of he had some injury problems last year as well. Missed a number of games, but was decent enough. Not too bad. But the ceiling though hasn't been that high for Markkanen. I mean, during his Chicago days, everyone was expecting him to be the guy until he was traded to Cleveland. How do you see him here? He's probably gonna battle. Well, probably gonna start right in the power forward position. I'm not sure if he's gonna start as small forward, but um, how do you see his fantasy value here?
I like it better also. Like Sexton, I think he gets a boost going to Utah, and he hurts a guy that is a sleeper for a lot of people, which is Jared Vanderbilt. A lot of
Yeah,
analysts, experts have Jared Vanderbilt as a sleeper, undervalued guy. Now that Markkanen is here, it affects Vanderbilt a little bit. There could be, Vanderbilt might have to play the five. Markkanen might have to play the three, but I believe Markkanen should start. Will start and will get minutes, and he'll play in a natural power forward position, unlike in Cleveland. I don't think Utah will go three big like Cleveland. So I think Markkanen will go back to his more normal position.
yeah.
So I like him. I like this move for him. Though there are rumors that he might be traded also.
Again,
He might be. This might just be a temporary stop. So we have
yeah,
to wait for that. But for now that he's here, assuming he stays here in Utah, it's a boost for him.
yeah. Well, nothing's final in Utah. I don't think if you look at this depth chart, it's really uh, you know chaotic to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Horton Tucker, we talked about last episode. His value might move up now with Markkanen. We don't know, right? I mean, he can still play the small forward, but
And
Markkanen there, Colin Sexton there. These guys are really ball.
and
They need the ball
yeah.
there as well. So
And Nikhil Alexander Walker is there.
I
DH.
shouldn't we be past Nikhil? I mean, Nikhil's been a talk of fantasy every single year and has disappointed pretty much every single year.
Yes, but we're not talking about him as a possible pick. I'm just talking about him that he's a young player in Utah that they will probably have to play. So he has to get minutes, and he has be. They have to find out what they have in Nikhil. So he's gonna take minutes also from Taylor Horton Tucker and Ochai Agbaji. We haven't even talked about the rookie that they got from Cleveland. Agbaji, since he's one of the centerpieces also, they would probably showcase him also. Agbaji is a shooter who basically really, that's the only thing he does well. He shoots. He's a 3-point shooter. So there are a lot of pieces here that it's hard to, as you can see with this depth chart. Is that 17? How many players are there? I think that's a lot of players. So some
Yeah,
players might be like the Nino Johnsons or Juzang might not make the roster. Simon Fontecchio was signed by Danny Ainge this year as a free agent. So I'm assuming he's gonna stay and he's gonna get minutes also because reportedly Danny Ainge loves him a lot. So lots of things here, lots of things to that it's not yet certain.
yeah. It's hard to pick maybe a player you might not want to get or a player you might want to stay a little bit away from or be careful with. Given that it's not
Mm,
sure, but do you see anyone here who you should be careful with picking?
well, he's here, so I'm gonna. Although I did say I assume he's gonna be traded, but Mike Conley, for one, I don't care where he goes, given that his age and everything. Wherever he goes, he's basically at the downside of his career. Stay away from Mike Conley. Stay away from Jordan Clarkson. Sorry, fans of Clarkson, but I'm staying away from him this year. The vets, basically. Clarkson, Conley. These guys, I'm not gonna touch this year.
And the surprise, other than Vanderbilt, who the surprise is not much of a surprise now, but
Are we talking about Walker Kessler?
no, I mean the any players who you think will surprise.
Okay. Vanderbilt, just a quick note on Vanderbilt. I think currently it's 115th in Yahoo. If that stays at 115, I like that. Even with Markkanen, I think there could be value. They both of them can get value, Vanderbilt and Markkanen. But if you get Vanderbilt, if people get scared and drops him further, I think that's a steal. Vanderbilt, especially here in this roster in Utah, rebuilding, very, very appealing. But of
Yeah.
course, the $1 million question, everybody's been talking about this guy. I've been getting questions about him. Walker Kessler. Who starts? Azubuike or Kessler? How's Kessler? I like Kessler. I'm not gonna
More
sugarcoat
than
it. He's one of
Azubuike.
those. I did say I think Udoka might start, but it doesn't matter because I think Kessler will get 20, 21 minutes, probably 23 minutes. That's enough. Kessler is basically Jakob Poeltl in his rookie year. He blocked 4.6 blocks last year in college. He had 8 rebounds. He shot 60 something percent. That's basically all you need to know about him. And with this kind of a depth chart, unless the trades that will send Condi and etc. out will bring another center in, Walker Kessler is gonna be a player that I can see getting in the late rounds. Just for the blocks, just for the rebounds, just for what he can
Yeah.
do.
A
But
speculative pick, right?
yeah, but right now he's getting away from that speculative pick. If people are too enamored with him, then maybe you take he's becoming a Josh Giddey this year, Walker Kessler. But yeah, I think he's as long as you get him at a 130, 140, that range, he's a steal there. But if he becomes a Giddy and he becomes a 100, 105, ah, never mind.
Plus, this, like we said, Utah might still make some moves. So if you're drafting a little early this season, especially if you're drafting before the preseason starts, you
Yeah,
might have to think twice about drafting any of these guys other than maybe Sexton. Even Markkanen is
Markkanen.
an unsure thing, right? I mean, you said it. Maybe he could be traded still. So I think the only sure thing here for now is Sexton and maybe Vanderbilt. I would think
Vanderbilt.
Utah would want to keep Vanderbilt because of
Yeah,
he's being young, and of course Kessler may be a speculative pick in the deeper leagues or maybe your last
yeah,
pick in case you
yes.
need some centers. But
Those
yeah,
four. Those four. Lauri Markkanen, Kessler,
Jared Butler. There
Vanderbilt,
were
and
questions about
Sexton.
Jared Butler, but I think with Sexton here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Clarkson because Clarkson's really not old, uh,
Uh,
right?
I think Clarkson's gone. I'm more sure Clarkson is gone because Clarkson, all you need is maybe 1 or 2 second round picks to get him, and there would be contending teams who could just shell that out. The Lakers for one would love it to get him, but I think Clarkson and Bojan are for sure out of there. Jared Butler is probably gonna be the backup point guard of Sexton. So if you're in a very deep league, yes, he's someone maybe you could consider very late. But in standard leagues, no.
All right.
Standard leagues.
All right, so that's Utah for you guys. The post Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert era. Basically, that's pretty much over. That's history. Now let's move on. Let's continue talking about some of the depth charts. We earlier talked about DeJounte and Trey Young. So now let's do it
There we
alphabetically.
go.
Start with Atlanta. You know, I would project Trey Young, DeJounte starts, the DeAndre Hunter, Collins, and Clint Capela. No changes there. I don't see. Um,
Yeah.
the
No
most I
no
guess the
arguments.
most interesting thing here for me is the center battle, right? I mean, we
Yes.
know Trey and DeJounte will start. What they give out would probably still be good, right? Trey Young still projected first round, maybe DeJounte in the second round. Um,
Yes.
the other guys, really, there's really not much competition. DeAndre Hunter, I don't see anyone battling him out for that position or at least threatening him. John Collins as well. But Clint Capela and Onyeka Okongwu, last year alone, had some, Capela wasn't, I think, on the decline too.
Yes. On the decline. And so far, the ADP's mock drafts, I've seen him drop to 70, 80. So he's going really low. Last year, I remember he went top 50, 40s,
Yeah.
very early.
He's part
So,
of
and
that
Okongwu,
mid-round center, you know, s- con- the center bunch there with Jarrett Allen, with Nurkic, right? He was part of that group and one of the
Yes.
better ones in that group as well.
Yes, he was one of the better ones, but he had some injury concerns, some foot problems here and there that was annoying. And of course, as you said, Okongwu was good when he was getting the minutes.
Yeah,
Even in limited minutes, he was good. Now, what I'm seeing right now this year is that Capela and Okongwu's draft range is not that far off anymore. But
really.
I'm gonna
Well,
ask you, I'm gonna ask you, do you still think you should pick Capela first over Okongwu, right? Or do you, or do you think you should pick up Okongwu over Capela now?
no, I still think Capella gets well, they're paying Capella more, so I think that's my logic. I guess they're paying him
Yeah.
more, so they're gonna pay him more. It's just that Capella can't get himself healthy, and that's been an issue what for years now with Capella. Okongwu would be a good what maybe a good handcuff for Capella because he's a decent fantasy player as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think Okongwu is still worth a pick. Maybe after the hundreds, maybe the 120. Is that too far?
I I think he won't last that long. He's one of the rising hype guys. I won't put sleepers anymore because that's not even accurate anymore. There's no sleepers anymore. One of the hype big guys. Some people have been picking him inside the top 100 and then Capella around 70s. So that's where they're going. I think Capella is a steal at the 70s. I still think that's very good value. Okongwu though is also okay if you pick him like Jeremy said in the 100 after 100, 110, 108, 115, around that range. But if you pick him at the 90s, yeah, he could reach that, but there's no value there. I think if Capella is still in Atlanta,
You know,
though,
for the 90s, that's a lot of uncertainties already. I mean, he
though
would probably still back up Capella.
though John Collins is always in the trade block. So if in case Collins leaves, might Okongwu might be able to start as power forward. They've tried it before in limited occasions. That could happen. So there are lots of possibilities with Okongwu. There's lots of chances for Okongwu to get minutes this year. So I think he will reach the 110. I can compare his situation this year to like a Mo Bamba last year. People are expecting bigger things from him this year. So around the 110 where Bamba went last year, I think that's a perfect spot for Okongwu.
Yeah, I agree. I think outside 100 would be nice. The difference between this situation and the Mo Bamba situation is that somehow the Mo Bamba situation, we kind of expected him to at least have a bigger role. The challenge here is that pretty much this Atlanta team did not really, make any major changes, especially in that center position. That's the biggest challenge. So if you pick him within the 100, um, with this lineup, I don't see it changing drastically, right? Mo Bamba, we kind of there were Isaac was out. There wasn't really any other player there in the power forward position. Even if you back up Wendell Carter, the depth isn't as good. So he really had the role, and we already saw it, some glimpses of it towards the end of the season a couple of years ago. Here, we're still waiting for that Okongwu moment. He's had some good glimpse here and there. So I think outside 100, inside 100, a little more. The ceiling might be too close. You're getting too close to the ceiling. John Collins, you mentioned, has also been a favorite, especially if you're on a no punt build because he's pretty much a good all around type of player. You mentioned he might be traded. Where do you see him here going?
He is dropped also. He was almost a second round pick last year, right? He was being
Yeah,
picked the 20s very early. Now he's around I think fifth round. This round is lasting until the fifth round because the hype is gone after last season. I think he should be going there. Sixth, fifth, sixth, just ahead of Capella maybe, or just beside Capella. That's where I think he will land. His hype has really died down.
Yeah.
So no, not much, people talking about him
It also
this year.
didn't help. It also didn't help that he didn't play well last year.
Yes,
He
yes.
played below the expectation. Any player here you stay away from? Bogdan,
Um,
maybe.
yeah, I agree. Bogdan only because of the injury. I'm not sure if he's gonna be ready for the season. We did put out an article about that today, or is it today? Yeah, I think it's today. The injury, he might be out for a couple of weeks, maybe. I'm not sure. And he's a notoriously slow starter, so we have to be aware of that. Plus, the entry of DeJounte gives him a secondary ball handler. That was his role before.
Yeah.
So he might become more of a spot up shooter here in this situation. So Bogdan is someone that is could be a bust in the Atlanta lineup.
Yeah. Surprise. Any surprise player that we should watch out for?
I think it's basically Okongwu here. I think it's not a surprise. A breakout. A breakout is Okongwu. If it's really a surprise, I'm going out on a limb here. I think John Collins might surprise people again. He's up to a point where he's now in the 60s, in the late 50s, and the 60s. That there's value there now,
Yeah.
especially if I don't know, he gets traded to a good situation, or maybe he just wants to prove himself again. There's
Actually,
some
the
value there
60s
in
is
Collins.
nice. Actually, I like that. I mean, if he falls to the 60s, that's solid. He's not
Yes.
the player who hurts you. So that's good. They've showed they also Dejounte and him also showed some nice chemistry during the some of
Pro amps.
the pro am
Yeah.
leagues. So
He is like what you call those guys, post hype guys. It's like after everybody's bought their discounted items, you go in and then
yeah,
you get it cheaper, and that's perfect
also
situation.
the thing with John Collins, he's slowly getting into that what do you call it, the boring type of players,
Yeah.
underrated, boring players. I mean, I know he didn't perform well last year because he was drafted too high. That's why people were expecting so much. I think that it's been 2 years now, right? I mean, 2 years ago it's the same thing. If he's in the 60s, I think he drops to that Tobias Harris level, to that Chris Middleton level we're in. We don't expect too much already from John Collins, but he is, like I said, he doesn't hurt you in any categories, even the turnovers, even the field goal. So he's solid. He gets good field goal. Now the only question is can he score a little more? Can he block a little more, a few more shots?
Yeah, I think
Those
that's
are
the
the
key
things.
with.
I mean, he's just probably one block away, or maybe 4 or 5 points away from his average, and he'd be a very good fantasy player in that level.
Yes, I agree. He's averaging 1.0 block, point 0.6 steals. So, if it becomes 1.5, 1.6 blocks, and then a steal a game, he's probably easily top 35, top 30 again.
Yeah,
So that's a big difference there. So that's always been a concern with Collins. The defensive stats hasn't been there. Hasn't been there. So
hasn't been consistently good.
yeah,
He
yeah,
can he's shown he can do that, like the 2-3 blocks per game, right? But not consistent. Plus, he's always been overshadowed by Capela Okongwu with the center position. That's where I guess that's hurting him a bit, because he has to share the rebounds, he has to share the defensive chores as well, defensive stats. But yeah, 60s is really good value. I like that. I like that value. All right, that's it for Atlanta. No one, no exciting players here other than Okongwu. Even Okongwu isn't even an exciting pick. I don't see it as an exciting pick. Uh, but yeah, we'll see. The question here is Trae Young and Dejounte, but we've talked a lot about Dejounte and Trae Young already, since they were traded. So I guess there's not much to be said there. Let's move on to maybe the last for the night. Boston. Oh wait, Boston depth chart. Um.
But
So yeah,
Who's your starters?
Um, I think that these guys would be starters. I wouldn't be surprised if Grant Williams starts ahead of Horford. Um, but
And
but given that I think um the seniority is there, plus they might need some boost off the bench. So, but I don't see it as a I don't see it as a surprise if that happens. I can see Grant Williams starting over Horford from time to time as well. Fantasy wise, though, I don't think both are really good options. Although Horford really played well, surprised us a bit last year.
yeah, Horford stats, if you agree with me, is basically like John Collins. If you look at it,
Yeah.
they're very similar. If you look at their stats last year, aside from John Collins scoring more, 16 to 10, everything is almost point something away. Even the percentages. John Collins shoots better, but Horford shoots better free throw. So it's basically like Horford. The difference is Horford is dropping. He's now past 100. And again, he's another one of those boring guys that I think if he lasts long enough, he can be a good value. It lasts long enough. I'm not asking you to pick him in the top 100 or even in 105 or 110. It's really too boring. And that's only the round 9, 10. If you can get him later than that, 11, because people will look for. I'm not going to be surprised if the Vanderbilts, the Claxtons, everybody else will pick those ahead of Horford. To the point where Horford in round 11 is still there, round 12 is still there. I think he becomes okay, right? He becomes a value.
No,
So
what's interesting here in uh, Boston is that if you look at this depth chart, it looks like it's so thin. There's been, I mean, we've seen depth charts wherein there are 17, 15 players. Of course, the roster is not yet final. But this looks like a very thin roster. I don't think
yeah,
they'll make many more changes, especially after the KD case, or KD trade has died down. Um, and having said that, there are a lot of fantasy assets here as well. I mean, Brogdon's here, Derek White's here. These are some of the players that can still contribute. Mm, but I don't think Brogdon is gonna be as good as the Indiana Brogdon.
yeah. He's the if you're gonna ask me, guys, to stay away from, Brogdon is number one in this list. I'm not picking Malcolm Brogdon this year. No, I don't care if he stays healthy. Let Jeremy deal with that. Jeremy doesn't have any hair anymore, so nothing will fall off anymore. So even if he's the best case, he plays 75 games. He's coming off the bench. There's Derek White, there's Marcus Smart, there's Jaylen Brown, even Peyton Pritchard. There's just so many players that, given his very, very fragile body, the Celtics won't give him 35 minutes or
Yeah,
32 minutes.
yeah.
He probably gets 24, the most, 25, 23. That's not enough. And that's not worth drafting and worth,
This is
having headaches for.
this is an acquisition by Boston to help them during the playoffs. I mean, players
Yes.
like these old players who are tested, battle tested already, reliable, who can be consistent. So they'll preserve them for the playoffs. And Peyton Pritchard has been regarded. I've read an article that he's been regarded as one of the probably the most underrated player in the NBA right now among his peers. He was regarded by his peers as the most underrated player in the NBA. So they'll probably give him some chance to shine as well. So yeah, Brogdon, stay away. Robert Williams is going to be interesting as well. He's been moving up the ranks, I guess, since last year. Is he that next level center already? Has he Is he a player that can move past the Rudy Gobert, those
Yes.
guys, the Vucevic,
Yes.
right? Those guys who have for the
Yes.
longest time are the second rounders, the top tier centers in the league, fantasy wise. Will
Robert
you
is
pick him
already in
first?
fast.
Will you pick him first over players like Rudy Gobert?
I will not pick him over Gobert. I'll pick him over Vooch. But I can see him. I can see the reason a reason why you pick him over Gobert though. They're interchangeable for me this year. My only worry about Robert Williams is the injury because the last time we saw him, he hobbled his way to the playoffs. I don't know how healthy that he is, given that that was just what a couple of months ago, and we don't know how the damage there is. There's no news about it. There's no update about it. But assuming he's healthy, he has recovered, there's no reason if you're in a 14 team league you don't consider him mid second round as early as that, as early as 2022, maybe 28, 20 until 28. I think he should be considered there. He definitely have to pick him over Nikola Vucevic. Come on, which is past his prime. And Robert Williams last year had 2.2 blocks, only a turnover, shot 73% free throw, 70+% field goal, double-double. He's gonna get more than that this year, as long as he stays healthy. So the only reason I might stay away picking him in the top 25 is because of health. If
Yeah.
not, if I'm in the 23, 24, 25, even in the 21 to 25 range, I will consider him already.
And that's
I'm
a
that
real
high on
concern.
him.
I think the injury is a real concern because even last year, he's been in and out of that
Yes, yes.
IL due to various injuries, particularly the knees, the foot, whatever below the waist, right? I mean, there's been injuries all over for Robert Williams, and like you said, he played hobbled in the playoffs, but still played well, right?
Yes,
Still played
exactly.
well.
Pero
Um,
but you asked me, will I pick Gobert or Williams? I'll answer it. I'll pick Gobert first. I value the stability and the less risks with Gobert. So
yeah,
even if I think I would like the stats of Williams this year more than Gobert per game, I'll go Gobert.
yeah. Gobert is still as solid as they come. Not
Yeah.
like we said, we always talk about this. He's not. He's one of the boring picks as well. While
Yes.
Robert Williams is probably the sexier pick. But in terms of the ceiling, I think you know Robert Williams has more to go as long as he keeps himself healthy. All right, yeah, that's pretty much it. Anything you want to add here in Boston? I'm not sure
Maybe
if there's any player here who can really surprise us this year. Derek White, quickly, maybe Derek White,
I'm
very
not. I'm
underrated
not.
before. Um, but in Boston, how do you see him?
I've never been a fan of Derek White. I don't know. I don't know why. Yeah, there's Brogdon there. I think they would probably share minutes off the bench, and then you know, Smart also. So sorry, I know there's lots of Derek White fans out there in fantasy, but I'm just not one of. Never been one of them. Never been one of them. It's always been disappointing. I don't see that changing. So no, I'm not high on Derek White.
Yeah, and do you think Marcus Smart sticks there?
Yeah. Marcus Smart sticks. Marcus Smart in the 870s or 80s. Yeah, he's again maybe boring, but he's underrated. He's underrated. What he gives aside from if you're punting field goal, especially, he's a guy you need to consider. He's a guy you need to consider because that's really basically his only problem. The field goal.
And the
The field goal.
turnovers.
Yeah, a little turnovers, but I think with Brogdon and White there, they could play small. They could play smart shooting guard again. So turnovers might help him. Actually, the guy that maybe lastly that we can talk about is Jaylen because
Yeah, I was just
last
about to
year
say
Jaylen
so.
Jaylen was a third rounder last year. Sometimes even a late second rounder, a 27, 28. He's now at the 50s. So I don't know what happened or why that's happening, but he disappointed last year. And the injury last year, yeah, now I remember. Because I own him in three of my three of my leagues last year. The hamstrings. And that's
He
probably the
actually had
reason
a
you
good
drop him.
start last year. I think, if I remember correctly, he had a
Yeah,
really good start
yeah,
last year. Scored
the
really well. I think he had a 40-point game or something like that.
that was the New York game. I think it was the opener, the New York game that went to overtime or something.
Yeah,
and he was really good. But then he got
he
injured,
got hurt.
and
Yes.
yeah. This year, do you see any improvement in Jaylen Brown's game, or this is Jaylen
So
Brown?
yeah, I
Is
think
he
this is
becoming
Jalen Brown.
Tobias? Is he
I
becoming
think this is
another
yeah.
boring guy?
I think this is Jalen Brown. I think the difference. This is the probably peak Tobias, peak Chris Middleton here. The Jalen Brown last year. I think what what I expected last year was a little more rebounding, right? Because 2 years ago he was really good at those departments, the rebounding and the scoring. But last year, like you said, the injuries haunted him a bit and his managers a bit. So yeah, I think this is peak Jalen Brown. 50s though. Did you say 50s?
Yeah, he's currently 57th in Yahoo.
All right, that's I feel that's really good value already at the 50s. He's still the number two guy here in Boston. And from there would be nights he will be the number one guy here, and you know Jason Tatum is really not a clear number one guy in Boston. If you think about it, he's had some lows as well in Boston. If he doesn't play well, there's always Jalen Brown who's gonna you know swoop all those responsibilities scoring wise. So I think he can be these two guys are like 1A, 1B. It's just that Tatum contributes a lot more in other categories and he's flashier, I guess, or the moves are nicer to look at, I guess, when it comes to Tatum.
I think I can't agree with the 1A, 1B. I think last year we've disproved that they're not similar players, or very near or close in fantasy, because some people did say that last year. You got Jalen and Tatum are almost the same, but we've disproved that. Tatum is a first rounder, and Brown is not. He's not even a third rounder at this point. He's a fourth to fifth rounder. So there's a difference between the two of them.
Yeah, but
I'm just
I think at the 50s, that's too far off for me. I think that's too far off.
but are you picking him over? I see Vassell and higher than him actually.
I'm picking him
So
over Vassell.
okay,
I
over
think I'm pick,
Kelton.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But I have my own biases on Keldon. I'll probably pick Vassell more over Keldon for me. I used to like Keldon, but he hasn't really been good.
Bane.
I think Bane over Bane, Jalen Brown over Bane.
Yeah. I think
Um,
those are the players I see here in this range: Bane, Vassell, Keldon, Jordan. Well, not Jordan Poole, but
you know what?
um,
I think I still like Jalen Brown over Bane.
okay.
Do you like Bane over Jalen Brown?
Yeah, I like Bane over Jalen Brown. Only because where would Jalen Brown improve? That's why I asked the question to you. Is there anything else that he can improve? Because Bane was top 30 last year. Bane was top 30 last year, and you remember there's no JJJ this year, and there's no big acquisition from Memphis. So I think I might go Bane over Brown.
Here's why I still don't like Bane over Jalen is because Bane did that just for a year. I'm still not
Yeah,
too
true.
sold. And the time that he did that, everyone picked him past the 100, right?
Yeah.
So that's gonna be really good. But if you're gonna pick him 30s, I'm not sure if that's gonna be good for you guys. I mean, I don't like that. I'd rather it's just that I just feel like I'm not as confident yet with
Interesting.
Bane. With Bane. I think Jaden has shown sometimes that he can be the top dog. Maybe not as close to, like you said, Tatum, but Bane, I'm not too sure if he can continuously do that. Given the teams would probably zero in on him without Jaren Jackson. I think you know without Jaren Jackson he might have more opportunities, but you also would have more attention on him
Fair enough. Fair enough.
defensively.
Yeah.
So I think just the trust factor. But if you bring down Bane to a later rounds, maybe I think 30s. If you pick Bane 30s, that's too high for me. I think
Yeah,
the
I think Bane
50s, 40s,
Bane is
maybe.
Bane is beside Jalen. They're basically beside each other, 40s, 50s. So That's why I asked those, because probably those will probably be the listener's choice also when the draft comes. When they're
Ah,
there, they're gonna see Bane, they're gonna see Terry Rozier, they're gonna see CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown.
you
That's what
see,
they're
if
gonna
you
see at that stage.
yeah,
They're,
but if you talk
they're,
about during those range, CJ McCollum's probably pretty much on the same level as Jaylen Brown, but are they the same level with Bane at this point?
I like Bane over them this year.
Because they're
Even
younger. He's younger, right?
he's younger, and CJ has, well, maybe we can talk about New Orleans next, but yeah, I foresee some drop in CJ this year. I foresee some drop in CJ, especially if Zion's healthy.
Maybe
So
a big part of it for me is that I've seen more of what they can do for a longer period of time than I've seen Bane do it for just a year. Maybe that's just it. But maybe you could be right. I mean, Bane could be
but it's good
consistent.
because this is conversation that will open our minds. I'm still debating in my head because I've been looking at this range. I was shocked Jalen dropped that low, so that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
So good conversation about
Yeah,
him.
we'll probably talk more about Bane in our Memphis depth chart, but yeah, it's just that I haven't seen enough of Bane. 1 year is not enough, uh, right? 1 year is not enough. Was he in a contract year last year?
No, no,
Not
no.
yet. All right. Anyway, we'll talk more about Memphis when we reach Memphis. But for this episode, that's probably it. We talked about 4 teams today, and we'll talk more in the coming weeks. We'll have multiple episodes for a week so that we can complete all the teams as early as we can. But for now, that's it. And hope you enjoyed it. Hope this helped. Ongoing right now are league draft lottery. In a couple of weeks, our league drafts will also start. If you like to join our Roto league, we still have a few slots for Roto. Roto's really the slow moving type of league. We're trying to form two leagues. We don't want it to be a very big one league, right? An 18 or a 20 team league. We rather have it two 14 team league. So yeah, if you want, the sign up sheet is still up there. I'll probably fix those in this weekend. So yeah, it's still open. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Subscribe, guys. Follow us on Spotify. Subscribe on our YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys again in the next episode. Bye.